Welcome back to American Nightmares, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of true crime, stories that shock, haunt, and remind us of the fragility of the human spirit. I'm your host, and today we're unraveling one of the most bizarre and heartbreaking sagas I've ever come across, the story of Steven Stayner and his brother, Cary Stayner. This isn't just a tale of a kidnapping or a serial killer. It's a twisted family tragedy where one brother became a hero and the other descended into unimaginable darkness. Buckle up, because this one's a roller coaster of tragedy, resilience, and a chilling twist you won't see coming. Before we dive in, a quick note. I'm filming this from a cozy spot in Canada, away from my usual setup. The vibe's a bit different. Think fireplace, antiques, and a warm blanket. But the story's as raw as ever. Apologies if the audio's a bit rough. I'm working with what I've got. Now let's get into it.
Stephen Gregory Stayner was born on April 18, 1965, in Merced, California, to parents Delbert and Kay Stayner. He was the third of 5 children, with 3 sisters and an older brother, Cary. The Stayners were a typical middle-class family, living a quiet life in a small town, until December 4, 1972, when their world shattered. 7-year-old Stephen was walking home from school when a man approached him. The stranger introduced himself as Irvin Edward Murphy, claiming to be a church representative collecting donations. Stephen, a polite and trusting kid, mentioned that his mother might be willing to help. Murphy asked for his address, and as Stephen answered, a white Buick pulled up. Without hesitation, Stephen climbed into the back seat, unaware that this moment would mark the beginning of a 7-year nightmare. The driver wasn't Murphy. It was Kenneth Eugene Parnell, a disturbed man with a long history of crime. Parnell, born in 1931, had a troubled past. Abandoned by his father at 5, he spiraled into juvenile delinquency, committing car theft, arson, and other offenses. His behavior was erratic, even masochistic. Reports from his childhood describe him attempting to pull out his own teeth at age 4 and deliberately injuring himself by jumping onto a nail-studded plank. By 1951, at age 20, Parnell was convicted of luring an 8-year-old boy with a fake deputy badge, sexually assaulting him, and serving 4 years in prison. He later escaped, only to be recaptured. This was a man who thrived on chaos and control. Parnell and Murphy had met while working at Yosemite National Park, where Parnell was a nighttime janitor, a job that suited his predatory nature. Murphy, described by friends as naive and simple-minded, was easily manipulated by Parnell, who convinced him to help abduct a child to raise in a religious way. On that fateful December day, Murphy played the bait, luring Stephen into Parnell's car. As the Buick sped away, Murphy stayed behind, leaving Stephen in the hands of a monster.
By 1980, Stephen was 14, and Parnell's interest in him waned as he reached puberty. Parnell began targeting younger boys, even enlisting Stephen to help abduct them. Stephen, however, sabotaged these attempts, refusing to let another child suffer his fate. This defiance strained their relationship, and Parnell grew resentful. On February 14, 1980, Parnell kidnapped 5-year-old Timothy White in Ukiah, California. For 2 weeks, Stephen watched as Timmy endured the same horrors he had. On March 1st, with Parnell away at his night job, Stephen seized his chance. He took Timmy and hitchhiked to Ukiah, hoping to find Timmy's home. Unable to locate it, Stephen walked into a police station and declared, "I know my first name is Stephen." That simple, heartbreaking statement became iconic, encapsulating his resilience and identity reclaimed after years of erasure.
On March 2nd, Parnell was arrested at his job, charged with kidnapping. Both Steven and Timmy were reunited with their families, and the case exploded in the media. Steven was hailed as a hero for saving Timmy, and his story inspired a book and a 1989 TV series, both titled I Know My First Name is Steven. Yet behind the headlines, Steven's return was only the beginning of new struggles.
Returning to Merced at 14, Steven faced a world that had moved on without him. His family, overjoyed at his return, struggled to reconnect with a teenager who'd lived a vastly different life. Steven found it hard to adjust to sharing space with his siblings, especially his older brother Cary, with whom he now shared a room. The constant media attention, interviews on Good Morning America, reporters camped outside their home, made normalcy impossible. At school, Steven was ostracized. Classmates, aware of his abuse, taunted him, questioning his sexuality and implying he'd enjoyed his captivity. The cruelty was relentless, and Steven, unable to cope, dropped out of high school and began drinking heavily. His relationship with his father, Delbert, deteriorated. Delbert, perhaps grappling with his own guilt and trauma, refused to hug Steven once the cameras left, treating him as a stranger rather than the son he'd lost. In an interview with Newsweek, Steven said, "I returned almost a grown man, and yet my parents saw me at first as their 7-year-old. Why doesn't my dad hug me anymore? 7 years changed him, too."
While Steven's story ended in tragedy, it was his older brother Cary who would cast an even darker shadow over the Stayner family. Cary, born in 1961, was 11 when Steven was kidnapped. The loss devastated him, and he felt powerless as the older brother, unable to protect his sibling. Night after night, Cary would wish on a star for Steven's return, a ritual he continued even after Steven came home. But beneath this seemingly sweet gesture, Cary was unraveling. The Stayner family's focus on Steven, first his disappearance, then his return and the ensuing media frenzy, left Cary feeling neglected. Delbert and Kay, consumed by grief and later by Steven's reintegration, emotionally withdrew from their other children. Cary, a quiet and creative teen with a talent for art, was overshadowed. Neighbors later recalled that when Steven returned, Cary was put back on the shelf, his needs ignored as the spotlight fixed on his brother. Cary's alienation deepened in 1989 when Steven died. The loss, combined with Steven's posthumous fame, left Cary grappling with feelings of inadequacy. In 1990, another blow came when Cary's uncle, Jesse Stayner, was found dead from a single gunshot in his Merced home. Cary had been living with Jesse at the time, and though the murder remained unsolved, speculation later pointed to Cary. The media, still fixated on Steven, headlined the story with "Steven Stayner's uncle murdered," further erasing Cary's presence. By the late 1990s, Cary was working as a handyman at Cedar Lodge near Yosemite National Park. The serene setting masked his growing turmoil. In 1999, that turmoil erupted in a horrifying way. On February 15, Carol Sund, her daughter Julie, and their friend Silvina Peloso vanished from Cedar Lodge. Weeks later, their bodies were found. Carol and Silvina in the trunk of their charred rental car, Julie 40 miles away. A chilling note sent to the FBI, complete with a hand-drawn map, taunted investigators with the words, "We had fun with this one." Initially, suspicion fell on ex-convicts Michael Larwick and Eugene Dykes. But the case took a turn in July 1999 when 26-year-old naturalist Joey Armstrong was found decapitated near her Yosemite cabin. Evidence pointed to Cary's distinctive car, seen near the crime scene. When FBI agent Jeff Reineck questioned Cary, initially as a witness, Cary's behavior was odd. He raised his hands as if surrendering. Over pizza with investigators, Cary confessed, not just to Armstrong's murder, but to the killings of Carol, Julie, and Silvina. Cary's confession revealed a depraved mind. He demanded images of young girls, reward money for his family, and a prison near Merced in exchange for his cooperation. When forced to choose one, he picked the images, a choice that underscored his predatory nature. Cary claimed his violent impulses dated back to age 6, predating Steven's kidnapping. A psychiatrist later revealed a history of sexual abuse in the Stayner family. Delbert had assaulted his daughters, and Cary had been molested by Uncle Jesse and had inappropriately touched his sister. This cycle of trauma, combined with Cary's neglect, created a perfect storm. In 2002, Cary was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. He remains on death row, his artwork a chilling reminder of the creativity he once showed promise in. The Stayner family, already broken by Steven's ordeal and death, was shattered by Cary's crimes.
The Stayner brothers' story is a stark study in nature versus nurture. Both endured trauma, Steven's captivity and abuse, Cary's neglect and molestation, yet their paths diverged dramatically. Steven emerged a hero, saving Timmy and striving for normalcy despite his pain. Cary, consumed by resentment and unaddressed trauma, became a monster. Steven's public support and recognition may have fueled his resilience, while Cary's life in the shadows left his demons unchecked. The greatest irony is that Steven, who saved a child from his own fate, died young, while Cary, the murderer, lived on. The Stayner family's legacy is one of unimaginable loss. A son kidnapped, a hero lost, and a brother turned killer. It's a reminder that trauma can shape us in ways we can't predict, and that the line between victim and villain is sometimes razor thin. That's the story of the Stayner brothers, a true American nightmare. My heart goes out to the victims' families, Steven's, Timmy's, and those of Cary's victims. As always, a portion of this video's proceeds will go to support victims' families and advocacy groups, because telling these stories isn't enough. We have to give back. What did you think of this case? Are you as shocked as I am by the twist with Cary? Let me know in the comments, and tell me what other true crime stories you want to see on American Nightmares. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Until then, stay safe out there, and I'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Bye.